welcome to Majority Rules. This is season 1, episode 10 or 11. 10-ish. I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, this is a podcast about Mizzou Athletics Majority, which is Olympic sports athletes. Most of the gang is back together. We've gained Rory this time, done with homecoming. She doesn't even know what to do with all of her free time. But we've lost an Abigail. But we will have some updates from her to pipe in later. So I thought last time, since we shared what we were excited about homecoming, this time we introduce ourselves. We can share something that a couple things we enjoyed about the homecoming festivities, whether or not it was the game or something, your float, walking amongst dinosaurs, or, decorating the district or whatever. So, I will start. Hi, Karen Steger. I am the Olympic sports manager here at Rock M Nation. And I'm also the softball gymnastics. I'm like somastics, softball gymnastics, and sometimes swimming beat writer here at the site. As for my favorite parts about homecoming, I hated the traffic. That was really bad. I hated the triple surge pricing Ubers. That sucked a lot. But I loved house decks once I found a place to park. I was incredibly impressed by my former sorority, Alpha Delta Pi, of which Rory is a member. But really the house decks I liked the most were Chi Omegas because they did an Inside Out theme and it looked like straight out of the movies. I saw parts of the parade. I am not a parade person, but I did actually, because of where my tailgating spot was right where the parade came by. So I did see parts of the parade for the first time in a very long time. And then I was at the game. The game was wild. I will say everyone needs to listen to Nate and Nathan's recap of the game, the BTBS pod. Nate is like dropping F-bombs left and right. It's like highly explicit material. Because he kept talking about how could anyone complain about our king, Brady Cook? And then he said that people that did that were blank idiots. It was highly entertaining. I highly recommend it. Let's go to my sister, Rory.
Another 80 pie. Hey guys, I'm Rory Whetstone, and I'll be covering golf, which is what I've been doing recently, swim, and then baseball as well. And my favorite homecoming memory was I've got a couple of things. One of my best friends from the other Columbia in the SEC, a worse Columbia, some may say, I say, was in town this weekend for homecoming, which was a lot of fun. She's never been here, so it was cool to just take her around. But I've been gone on so many of these episodes because of Fling for homecoming, because my roommates and I were liaisons. Our theme was up, and we took second place in Fling, which we're super proud of. We had our best actor, best supporting actress, and best song. So all the hard work paid off. So it's like,
a round of applause. A round of applause.
It's sentimental because homecoming's my favorite part of the year, so I hate that it's over already. But now I have free time, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, free time to work on your burgeoning collegiate soccer career.
Yes, yeah,
and reporting career.
Beware.
And then let's go to the roommates, whichever one of you would like to start. Maybe Matthew with his fresh haircut.
Yeah, long overdue fresh haircut. But I am Matthew Gustafson, the volleyball and wrestling beat writer for Rock M Nation, as well as assisting Rory on coverage of baseball, which we'll actually be talking about later on. But first off, Inside Out, Louis Black is Anger, one of the best casting choices I have ever seen. Just want to say that. Second of all, I was in the homecoming parade for the first time. That was probably my favorite thing, representing Mizzou student media, and got to live out a dream that I never realized I have of being a newspaper boy from the 1930s.
Ooh.
You just needed the hat. Like, that was the only thing that was missing.
I've got one of those hats somewhere. I think that I left it at home, but I actually have one of those hats.
It was meant to be.
Did you do like a new old-timey newspaper boy voice and everything?
I don't know. My voice is probably a little.
Anytime soon?
What was that?
Can we see you in the Newsies anytime soon? Like, you gonna be on stage?
Acting not my strong suit.
Get playing going for all of us?
Yeah. I like it, Rory. Let's make it happen.
Anyways, are you done?
Now that we made it awkward.
That was my I'm done. Just
Thank you, Matthew.
Anyways, we'll see if they decide to cut this or not. Who knows? Hi, I'm Dylan Heinrich. I'm the other half of the roommates. I am the soccer and women's basketball beat writer here. So this week, very busy week, upcoming this week and next week. So for my homecoming, for those who don't know, I'm also a part of the Man-Eater as the sports editor. So we spent several nights in the newsroom working on churning out that print edition. I believe one night I was there till like 2 a.m., which was fun. Anyways, get that done. Walk in the homecoming parade. Get to hand out the newspapers as well. I'm like sprinting from side to side, just like waving them around, like, who wants one? Who wants one? And we got rid of them all.
Okay,
so.
you should have been more creative.
Awesome. I wish I had one.
I was getting into it, man. I was getting creative.
I had some.
Okay.
But anyways, excited. The homecoming was a lot of fun and got plenty of fun stuff to talk about that happened over homecoming, especially from the soccer side.
Yeah. Awesome. I have a question for the group. Is Brady Cook the homecoming king?
I mean,
technically he didn't win the title.
Wait, Aaron, we should have said that an 80 Pie won homecoming queen.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask you about that.
Also, the king and the queen, both J schoolers.
Yes, they are. I love Audrey Stowe. Sorry.
J school, best school.
We have to go Brady Cook as homecoming king, or whoever drove him to the hospital and back, also homecoming king.
Right.
I
also recommend people check out Josh's review where he talks about the magic juice that Brady was injecting.
It's strange drink, okay?
I think that I put in an MV3 vote for this week, and my third nominee was MU Healthcare.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Shout out.
They are the real winners here. Without them, Mizzou does not win that game.
Not even remotely close.
All right, thank you for sharing your homecoming memories. Let's move on to in-season sports. And let's get started with soccer, who doesn't have that many more games.
No, soccer is guaranteed at least 2 more games, maybe probably 3, maybe more. We'll get into all that in a little bit. Back this last week, it was a pretty calm week around the SEC. They only had 1 game day, which was Friday before homecoming. Mizzou matched up against Oklahoma. Mizzou was above Oklahoma in the standings coming in. I believe they had a 3-point difference. So if Oklahoma won, they would have passed Mizzou. Both them were kind of joshing for those bottom spots around the SEC tournament line, which is 12. So Mizzou, I believe, entered the match 12. Oklahoma was 15. So very impactful match, very important, but Mizzou kind of left no doubt as to who the better team was. Happened really fast too. Leah Selm, first goal, 37 seconds in. Got a brilliant pass from Bree Buells. Little touch outside the box. Got a couple defenders basically flying out of the way. Puts a shot on net, goes in. Tigers are up 1-0, and Oklahoma kind of puts the pressure on through the rest of that first half, but they can't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mizzou opens the second half, 2 more goals, including a second from Leah Selm. Oklahoma finally gets one to avoid the shutout on a penalty kick. Might have been a little decisive, might have been a little controversial. Who knows? Either way, Tigers pull out the 3-1 win. With those 3 points and the other results around the SEC, the Tigers are now tied for 9th place, very much away from that edge of the line, and they now control their own destiny. If they can get 1 or 2 positive results in these last couple games, there is no reason that they shouldn't miss the SEC tournament, which they haven't made since 2018, which means it'll be the first one in the goal-on era. Things are starting to turn around. That's definitely the feeling that I'm getting from the team, from the atmosphere, and just being able to watch them, comparing especially last year and this year.
I've got to say, the team surprised me. I was there for the first half of that match, and obviously, like you said, 37 seconds in, but Oklahoma kind of controlled a lot of the rest of that half, and it was a little bit of a chilly night and didn't necessarily have the proper attire for it. So I walked out going, yeah, this is kind of feeling like it'll be a 1-1 draw, and then all of a sudden I get back, turn on the TV, and bang, 3-0. So, I mean, this is a different team than it was 2 months ago.
Mizzou is
wildly different.
Very much a bend, don't break type of defense. Like, they'll get a lot of shots on, maybe not even on net, but they're just constantly flinging it towards the box. But there's only a couple that you feel are really dangerous, like they could be scoring opportunities. Offensively, they're efficient. If they're going to shoot, they're going to make the most of their chances. They're not going to mess around and just throw and lob the ball at the net all the time. They're going to wait for the best possible opportunity. So while opponents are going to often outshoot them, now Mizzou is actually getting the results because they're putting in the process, putting in the work. And that way, things are starting to finally turn around for them. Once they have that lead, you can kind of see the defense sag back, especially when they go up 2-0. And it really feels like an impenetrable fortress. And if Mizzou goes up 2-0, I can virtually guarantee they are not blowing that lead.
So how many points do you get from a win?
Yeah, I try and explain this as much as possible without over-explaining it. With the trident that Matthew is throwing up, you get 3 for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 for a loss. So that makes wins so much more impactful than even a tie. So in that case, again, ties are okay, but you're always pushing for those 3 points, and that's a way to really separate yourselves from your opponents, is just continuing to knock up these ones in the win columns, especially in close matchups where either team could pull out a draw. So currently, Mizzou sits at 10 points alongside Kentucky and Texas A&M. It's too soon to even be looking at tiebreakers, so I'm not even going to bother. Just know they're all 9 to 11 spot through there. You've got teams like Alabama and Tennessee who have 8 points. Tennessee also has a game in hand, something to watch. LSU, who Mizzou will play to end the season, they're next up at about 7. So that's kind of your realm of that's the 13th team in, so just about everyone else is out. So Mizzou is likely finishing no lower than 13th, but they do control their own destiny, and you feel pretty good about them finishing well above that 12th spot.
Does a win over LSU guarantee a spot in the tournament?
Yes. Well, yeah, I will probably explain it a lot more in Tiger targets, but even a draw against LSU probably is going to be enough to get it done.
So coming up, well, actually, let's not go to coming up. So who are your MVPs from this Oklahoma game?
Start with Leah Selm. She scored both the goals, or 2 of the 3 goals for Mizzou, including that first one, which was one of the 5 fastest, I believe was 3rd fastest in program history all time. Really helped set the tone. She's been having a monster senior season, especially as a passer, but now we get to see some of her handlings as a scorer. On the other end, Shania Spriggs, a sophomore defender that we haven't really heard a lot about. She's had a really good last couple games. She was injured for the first part of conference season. She played her last game against Duke, came back against Mississippi State, and her on that back line, she's just taller and just more physically built than a lot of other defenders. She sits at 5'10", which is the second tallest player on the team behind Isabella Hollenbach. And for those who don't know, goalies are always very tall. So you just have to watch her like just boxing in these tiny 5'3" forwards. And it's like, oh, there's no chance that they're scoring on her. So definitely someone still recovering from injury, but now has played the full 90 minutes against Oklahoma, nearly 150 minutes in her 2 games since an injury return. Definitely an under the radar defensive pickup to have back heading into postseason play down in Pensacola.
Awesome. And then, so coming up, this will be the last 2 guaranteed games of the season, right?
Yes.
So at Texas, and then their final home game, LSU.
Yes.
So how are those 2 teams?
Texas,
I know you said something about LSU's points.
We'll start at the top. Texas is a very confusing team. Out of the non-conference, they were really good. Conference play, they've still been really solid. Like, they've kept it close against Mississippi State. They've kept it close against Arkansas, who, again, are the top of the crowd, the real cream of the crop here in the SEC. But they've also had some baffling results. Like, they lost to Florida earlier in the year, which, if you remember, Mizzou beat them comfortably 2-0. So this is a team that, while they are still competing for a top 4 spot and that first round bye, they should be favored. They should be the team everyone's watching in Austin. I would not count out the Tigers just yet. I think they have definitely enough talent and willpower and are playing with enough fire to give this team some trouble. Obviously, no one's expecting you to go down there and win, maybe even get a draw. But I think at this point, you're just playing with found money if you can get a positive result down there in Austin. Plus, I'd have to check, but I don't believe this team has won a road game yet. I know that they have tied against Alabama, but a win on the road heading into postseason play, that basically guarantees their chances, would actually jump them above Texas, at least for the time being, would be a sneaky, huge win to really solidify themselves as like, okay, not only is this team going to be dangerous years to come, but they might be dangerous right now.
That would be incredible.
I will be locked in.
Cross our fingers.
Thursday night.
Whatever sort of juju we need to do to make it happen.
Thursday night will be very intriguing. Looking ahead to the Sunday match against LSU, they'll be coming back home. Depending on their results and everyone else in the SEC, they will still be in the race no matter what for the SEC tournament. It's just really a matter of will they get in, won't they get in, seeding purposes. LSU will be another team to watch. They've started off really hot, but have struggled. Only 1 point in their last 5 matches, so they're 0-4-1. Going to be the underdog in a home match against Vanderbilt on Thursday. In all likelihood, they'll be playing for their season when they come to Columbia to close it. A girl I actually went to high school with who graduated with me, she's actually on the LSU team, so a little fun Colorado connection there. Be intriguing to see.
Fun fact.
Preferably she doesn't score, but I think that is Missouri's game to lose. You should be favored. You get a positive result there, you're guaranteed to be in the SEC tournament. So if it does come down to that last game, Missouri's got to put all their eggs in one basket and say, all right, if we're going to be truly the team we know we can be, we have to go out and beat what most would agree is a lesser opponent on our home turf to close out and really kind of, I guess, put a bow on this turnaround season that it feels like they're in the midst of.
It really feels like they're in a completely different spot than they were at the beginning of the season. Absolutely. Like I almost feel like it's like a whole different team.
Say what you want about the way that Stephanie Golan structures a non-conference. They're not going to make the NCAA tournament just because they simply don't have enough positive results, regardless of what they did in SEC play. Those opponents really iron sharpened iron in that situation, playing teams like SLU, Memphis, Duke. You got beat a lot, but this is a team that now knows how to play some of those upper-level opponents, how to deal in those high-pressure situations. And it is paying off down the stretch. So while this team might be a year or two away from the NCAA tournament, the SEC tournament's now right in front of them. Clearly some obvious turnaround that we've seen from Golan and a lot of youngsters on this squad, especially, plus some of that real good senior leadership from Selm, Milena Fisher, and Kylie Simmons as much when she can get out there, Rachel Catella, similar things.
Yeah. And then coming up, I know you have another Tiger Targets, and then still plugging away on that Landis Canada.
Yes, it's one of those where it's like I'm gonna work on it, and then there's like, oh, there's Tiger Targets, oh, there's a women's basketball piece.
Yeah.
So it's in the books. I've got the layout that I want for it. It's just it will be written before the season is over. That's a promise.
I understand. This is coming from someone who has the start of 2 gymnastics pieces that still other things started to take precedence over that. I was like, I'll get to it eventually. So thank you, Dylan. And you sound like you're feeling better now.
Feeling a lot better. There's a little bit left, but for the most part, feeling great. And I mean, hey, it's always a good time to be on Majority Rules.
It's true. It'll make you forget how you actually feel. Just for a little while. Moving on to Matthew. Volleyball. Another SEC win.
An expected SEC win, but you know what? It's still an SEC win. And especially this year in a conference where a lot of weird stuff is going on, and we'll get into it. Like, this is a wild conference right now. Maybe the Big 12 of, like, collegiate volleyball is the best way to put it, where you just don't know what's going to happen any given night. But nothing is guaranteed, and Mizzou gets the 3-1 win against Mississippi State. They were actually trailing for quite a while in the first set, ended up trailing as late as 24-22, facing set point. They go on a 3-0 run to force set point of their own. There's an attack error, but then they close it out with kill by Michael Vernon and then attack error by Ariana Beckham. That is a 5-1 run, and they end up coming back, completing it, and getting the set 1 victory, 27-25. They had 362 in that set, 293 for Mississippi State, and then just destroyed, like utter demolition in the second set, 25-12. But they were leading 15-2 at the media timeout. I have never seen that before. That was probably the most dominant stretch of volleyball that I have seen in my 2 years covering this team. It was ridiculous. And they ended up hitting 355 in that set. Mississippi State hit 0-3-2 in the second set. Mizzou goes up 2-0. But we all know what happens in set 3 sometimes, right? Yeah. The third set slump. It happened again, folks. And, you know.
Are they cursed the third set?
I feel like part of it can be attributed to just the dominant nature of the second set, where, you know, maybe let your guard down a little bit, naturally thinking it's going to be easy going into the third set. Mm-hmm. Mississippi State doesn't want to get embarrassed again. They're going all out in set 3, trying to avoid the sweep. So I think it's a combination of those. But, you know, Mizzou put up a really good fight. They were trailing as much as 17-11 at one point. They fight their way back into it. It's 24-20. They go on another insane run. They go on a 5-0 run where they are continuously avoiding set point. And on a kill by Michael Vernon, they actually make it match point. But Mississippi State goes on a 3-1 run in response, and then it flips that back in their favor, and they close out the set on a 3-0 run. Mizzou leading match point as late as 29-28. Mississippi State wins a wild third set, 31-29. But Mizzou taking care of business in that fourth set. They end up winning it 25-18. Fairly comfortable victory there in set 4. And then you kind of saw Mississippi State got behind 15-8. They were kind of starting to close the gap, trying to push it. They got it within 4. Mizzou goes on a 3-0 run, gets back up by 7, kind of shuts the door, and they end up finishing out strong. So this was a very impressive performance by the team.
Yeah.
Hit 290 compared to 219 for Mississippi State. The defense was a strong suit overall. You look at, they had 7 blocks, a respectable number. There are also some individual highlights. You look at Jordan Iliff, 23 kills, 315 hitting percentage. He had 4 service aces and 12 digs. You had Michael Vernon, 22 kills, 378 hitting percentage, 14 digs. You had strong performances from both middle blockers, Colin Finney, Reagan Haith, both of them hitting above 300, having at least 7 kills.
Point number 2.
Take a look here. That's running right there. Yep. Closes out the 4 set, gives Mizzou the victory. But, you look at it, and the most impressive performances to me were by Maya Sands and Marina Crowder. Sands tied her career high with 30 digs, and she also added 10 assists. She was flying all over the court. It was a very impressive performance and reminding everybody why she is the reigning SEC Libero of the year. One of the best in the conference, if not the best. And, she was disrespected preseason. They didn't put her on the All-SEC team. They put 2 liberos ahead of her, despite her being named the Conference Libero of the Year last year. And then the other one, Marina.
Rude. That's rude.
It was. Marina Crownover, the starting center, 55 assists, 14 digs, 2 block assists, 2 aces, and 2 kills. That is an unbelievable all-around performance. Like I said, did not expect her to start this year. I thought she would see some playing time. I didn't think she would see a ton, but she has just come in and earned this starting job and has been an absolute game changer for this team. She's really big asset on defense. She's been able to get some serves. She's, I think, a little bit better with jousting at the net. She goes up kind of a 50-50 ball. She's able to win some more of those, and she's really mobile. So that kind of helps open up this offense in a variety of different ways. And this is one of the best offenses in the country, right? Last time I checked, they were 4th in the nation in hitting percentage. So this is a very dangerous team finding its stride right now. And they are currently 30th in the RPI, not receiving votes, but that could change this weekend. Mizzou currently tied for 3rd in the SEC.
What?
Didn't think I would say that.
Oh my God, I totally didn't know. I'm not even just saying that. I really didn't know that.
Didn't think I would say that at any point this season. I'm not going to lie. But they are currently tied with Arkansas, who they will be facing Friday night in Fayetteville. That is going to be one of the biggest matches of the regular season. And, with the way that this conference has been, there are more winnable matches than I expected on this schedule. Now you look at Arkansas, you look at Florida even, you look at Auburn. All 3 of those look like very close toss-up matches to me, where a couple of days ago, a week ago, they looked like they were slightly favoring the other team. So this is a very big matchup. And they also have Oklahoma on Sunday, who they should be able to take care of. Oklahoma towards the bottom of the standings. So if they go 2-0, and they beat Arkansas in Fayetteville, then I think there's a decent shot that you see this team begin to receive votes in the top 25 poll.
Love to hear it. I think the last time, was it last week, they were 31 or 32. So they're inching their way up a little.
They were 31st in RPI last week. Now they're 30th. Yep, they moved up 1 spot.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, and especially, the difference between a 3 seed and a 1 seed for the tournament is massive, right? So if you win those 3 matches, it feels like, and you take care of business everywhere else you're supposed to, it feels like that would be a good enough resume to be a 6 seed at that, which is absolutely huge, right? The last thing you want to have is go to Lincoln and have to face Nebraska again. So, the more wins they can get, the more toss-ups that they can win, that's going to continue moving them up in the seeding. The RPI is obviously going to continue bumping them up as well, which is going to be really big for them in the committee's eyes. So every single win counts. But Friday night, if they can get a win against Arkansas, that one is going to count just a little bit more.
And where can people watch that game? And
I
what
believe
time
that
is
one
it?
is going to be on SEC Network Plus.
Okay.
I don't believe that it is a television broadcast, but I think I'm looking at the schedule right now. Yep, SEC Network Plus, and that is going to be at 7 p.m.
I mean, if you have SEC Network, you just got to go on the ESPN app, load up SEC Network Plus, and it should let you play it through. So, I mean, the good thing I will say about the SEC, they make the Olympic sports pretty accessible to people.
They do, yeah.
The track show that they put on every year is really good, all things considered. Overall, some really good production quality anyways.
Not that you're at all biased.
No, not
broadcast stops.
No, I really not proud camera operator for
when they let KCOU do the broadcasting.
We're all friends. All friends around here.
So Matthew, what you're working on, I know you are hopefully having another over the net coming with.
Yes, that will be next week. Had one that I was trying to get lined up for this week, but timing didn't work out. It's harder to kind of figure things out on those road weeks. Should be a little bit easier, I think, next week. So we should have a episode being recorded hopefully Monday or Tuesday of next week, and then obviously releasing that Thursday or Friday of next week.
Awesome. And people should check out the episodes you've done so far. So I was saying before we were broadcasting that I listened to your last one, and you just do a really good job on them, and you have so much research that you've done ahead of time that I think it's almost surprising to the people that you're talking to. They're like, oh, you knew that? So I think it's really good.
I always enjoy having one or two curveballs to throw. Mm-hmm. Where, for example, if you watch the interview, you'll see that Emily Garrett, director of operations for Mizzou volleyball, she did her thesis in college at Illinois State, looking at volleyball statistics. And I asked her about it, and she actually didn't know that it was out there, that it was on the internet. I found the abstract for it. I wasn't able to access the thesis.
Surprise!
Yeah, she didn't know. She didn't know. So, yeah, it's amazing sometimes just how much interesting info you can find.
Yeah, I liked how you guys were talking about, too, the enormous amounts of Illinois State connections between, just the athletic department. It's kind of crazy.
There's also a great story in there about the first time she met Dawn Sullivan.
Yeah.
It is completely unexpected and really funny. So if you get a shot, go check it out.
Definitely. And then before we get to Rory, real quick, you went to the last baseball game, part of the last lovely fall World Series where the Tigers took on the Tigers again.
And it wasn't an Auburn situation.
Since that is the last bit before we see them again in February, anything you noticed?
Yep, so a few things. Now, I wasn't able to see the entire game. I ended up leaving, I believe, in the bottom of the eighth, but by that point, they were honestly, it was pretty clear they were messing around. There were pitchers getting in where, we're not going to see them this season. Caden Nicoletto came in I think it was the bottom of the seventh. He isn't listed as a pitcher on Mizzou's roster. He's exclusively an outfielder. He had 3 appearances last year in NAIA. He is not going to be taking them out unless something goes very wrong for the Tigers.
So let's hope we don't see him on the mound.
Yes. Yes. So I wasn't really going to learn much from that final inning and a half. But what I did learn during this game, the outfield depth should be much better. They brought in 2 transfers from Memphis, Cameron Benson, we've talked about. I think he's the odds-on favorite to start in left field this year. Pierre
Rory's
Seals,
shaking her head, yes.
he's looking like a possible starting candidate as well. He had a no-doubt home run to left field in the first inning. He had an OPS near 1,000 with 10 home runs in the AAC last year, so he will figure into this lineup. And you've also got Jarrett Curtis, who's looking very promising in center field, Caden Pierre, who was also a frequent starter last year, returning. So 4 really solid options there, and that's before we're even talking about, Caden Nicoletto, who was a NAIA All-American last year at Columbia College, and then Brock Daniels, who split time between first base and left field last season. So the depth is far better. Brock Lucas looked very good in 2 innings as a starter, 5 strikeouts across 7 batters, no hits allowed. He had a solid ERA last year, 3.63, and 18 appearances out of the bullpen. Looked like he could figure into the battle for a rotation spot. On the pitching side, Charlie Miller also impressed me again. He is looking like a player who is taking the next step in his second season and could possibly figure into kind of this group of pitchers that you're going to see out of the bullpen, who honestly, the depth at bullpen a little concerning right now. Miller stood out, maybe 1 or 2 others, but there weren't a lot of guys kind of jumping off of the page out of the bullpen during during these exhibitions. There were a lot of issues with command, allowing some contact and power, especially as well. So I think hitting is going to be better. Pitching is the biggest question mark on this team.
Call me crazy, but maybe, just maybe, they should have played some of these fall ball games against other teams.
What? That's a wild thought.
Well, they did. They did play 2 against UIC, but
there was like no record
that's
of
like
it.
a national.
They did it.
No one knows what happened.
Yeah.
But I guess it happened. We'll take their word for it. It happened.
I think Nicoletto came in one of the games that I was at, because I don't remember which team was which, but one of them was getting murdered. And he came in, and I'm trying to, my eyes are bad enough, so I'm squinting, what tiny little number on the top of their jersey, is that? And I'm looking at the roster that Matthew said. So I'm on my phone on one hand, on my computer on the other, and I'm trying to figure this out. And I Google him, and I'm like, he's not a pitcher. There's no way. And I'm like, whose numbers? What? And I mean, oh my God, they were giving me heart attacks. But no, your analysis, I feel like, is pretty spot on with this team.
And then now we probably won't hear a single word from them until February. Guess we'll find other things to talk about.
I will say it is a little bit concerning. You look at non-con last year, and there were some insane games being played. They would score 15 runs and still lose, like Northern Kentucky. So, yeah, pitching is definitely a cause for concern. I feel better about the starting rotation, but, a lot of the top guys out of the bullpen last year have either moved on or looking like people who could be a starter this year. So we'll see if anybody else steps up. Obviously, you still have an entire winter to develop these guys. So, don't push the panic alarm yet. But at the same time, if I had to pinpoint one big issue to be concerned about entering in the season, that is what it's going to be.
That's what always gets them too, at least recently. Yeah.
You cannot, in the SEC, you need deep pitching.
Yep.
Yeah.
You need an ace Friday night starter. You need at least 3 solid starters, right? And you need a respectable midweek guy as well. You really need a shutdown guy out of the pen and some solid depth as well. And I am not sure that they have that at the moment.
When I was covering them 2 years ago, they had a ton of injuries happen to their pitching staff, and I remember fell off. It all just came apart. It was so bad.
It was in the span of a week.
It was all back to back.
The whole sky fell.
It was crazy. And I just feel not necessarily since then, but it's just a constant issue with this team that you don't really know what that's going to look like, and you can't play in this conference with a giant question mark about your pitching rotation.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the problem is it's going to take a while to fix, right?
Mhm.
This is not a quick thing that you can do. Although, to be fair, they didn't really take in a ton of pitchers in the portal. So that would have been a nice help. But at the same time, freshmen are almost never going to be ready that first season. Even sophomores can really struggle sometimes. You look at Paul Skeens, he was a solid pitcher his first couple years at Air Force, transfers to LSU and suddenly becomes, Paul Skeens, right?
Mhm.
So that
Becomes
is
Mr. Olivia Dunn.
There you go.
that is the upside that, sometimes random stuff happens. Somebody who looked like a non-factor in fall ball all of a sudden becomes, an All-American in the spring.
Mhm.
You don't know, but don't bank on that either, right? That's not a good strategy to just hope for some
Yeah.
crazy developments like that. I don't think the staff is, just to clarify. I'm not saying that that's what they're hoping for, but, this is a long-term rebuild. It's clear that they're in the beginning stages of it, and pitching is especially difficult to build up SEC quality depth.
Yeah. All right. Well, guess we'll see. Thank you, Matthew. Rory. We got to
Golf.
golf.
We had both men's and women's golf this past weekend. Men's golf took 10th out of 13 teams out in North Carolina. 7 of the teams that they were facing were ranked top 35 nationally. 6 of these teams ended up in a higher position than Missouri, I think I just jumbled my words there, but still a strong showing. I know you see 10th place out of 13. It's towards the bottom, but you're playing against some really heavy competition at this point. So you take that. Last year in this tournament, they took 8th out of 10. So it's kind of about the same thing, but that's when they had Jacqueline Dean on the team, and he took 11th place overall. The highest placing for an individual Tiger this weekend was 35th out of 75. You had Virgilio Paz in one of those positions, tied for 35th. He carded a 73 at the end of the tournament, and I always butcher this name, so I apologize. It's Gibraltar Sigurbranson.
It's a crazy name.
I hope it was. I always Google too, like beforehand. I Google the pronunciation, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you can do it. You can do it.
I can give it to you if you want.
Yes, please.
Dagbjartur Sigurbranson.
Sigurbranson. Okay.
Yeah, the J is a Y in Scandinavian.
Oh.
Wow.
Another history lesson with Matthew. It's like a mini segment.
We never stop learning with Matthew.
No,
here.
we don't. So they were tied in 35th. Brock Snyder had the best day of the tournament. He carded a 73. He finished tied for 64th. And then you had Mateus Varjan tied for 41st. So overall, a good showing by this team. A rocky start to the tournament. They all kind of got into shape towards the back end. You saw most of them with 73s on that third day, and they will be back in action this weekend at Oral Roberts before they are done for the fall. On the women's side of things, they took 5th out of 10.
Much better.
Woo! 5th out of 10. Much better. Really good turnaround for them. Fleur Van Beek saw another top 10 placement for her. That is 3 top 10 placements over her last 4 appearances, which is huge. She carded a 75. Kind of like the men's team, how a bunch of the teams in this tournament were strong. There were 3 teams in this tournament that were in the top 20. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I totally just butchered my notes on this. There were 5 teams ranked in the top 50, but as you can see, we had 3 individuals in the top 20.
Yeah.
So just a strong showing for them. Fionn Tinan had a team best 72 at the end of the tournament to finish in 13th. You can see there Addie Dobson finished in 17th. This tournament was a little janky. The first day was rained out. They were even in the Bahamas, where I would love to be in the Bahamas with that weather. But yeah, so day 1 was rained out, which shortens it just to 36 holes, which is why that score might look a little different than you expected. But they are now done with play until February. So just like baseball, they gone.
Yeah. Except for that, you're going to do a season.
Yes. With my free time today, guys, I started this cool article where I'm just going to be recapping the women's fall season comparisons individually, just as a team, where they're at now versus where they've been past couple of years. And I should have one out on the men's team as well, but they just still have another tournament this weekend, so you'll just have to wait about a week longer for that.
And theirs just isn't as impressive as.
Yeah, it's really not. But go women.
Yeah. Hear us roar.
Hear Rory roar. Oh. Sorry, I had to. I've heard that all my life, like Roar by Katy Perry. Oh my Lord. Lordy, lordy, Lord.
Love it. At least your name isn't Karen.
You know what? Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you that.
Because that was unfortunate. Period.
I'll give you that.
I used to say when I worked at Target, that's why I didn't wear a name tag. Like I was, but in actuality, I just never wore a name tag. Anyway, we do have a couple of quick swim and dive updates. I went back and looked at mutires.com about the Arkansas meet. They put out like something about it like well after the meet. And I didn't realize that Lena Bank won all 3 of her events and that her 100 breaststroke time of 1:00:41 is currently ranked 2nd in this SEC, which is crazy considering the amount of talent that is in the SEC, and 4th in the country, which is also crazy because you have all those Olympians in there, like awesome, really awesome. And then the other thing I was going to say, the women are ranked 25th in the new poll. I am fairly certain they were not ranked at all last year. So this is really awesome. They also, and this was coming from receiving no preseason votes, top 25 votes at all. So like the men received 5 preseason votes. The women didn't receive any, and now they are currently ranked 25th. So go ladies. Coming up Friday, they have their first home dual meet of the season versus the Purdue Boilermakers. It's at 11 o'clock. The men haven't had a meet yet, so this will be their first meet, and then the women's second meet. It's also a pink out meet in support of breast cancer awareness. A couple of quick things I found out about Purdue. Neither of their teams are ranked. Both the men and the women are coming off a victory over a bunch of small Indiana schools at the Dan Ross Intercollegiate. The women won by like 40 points or something like that. I have in my notes men plus and then a blank. So apparently I forgot to check that part out. Oh, well. The women did do better than the men, though, here. So they won 14 out of 24 events. One of their 50 freestyler beat the program record in the 50 free swimming leadoff in the 200 free relay. She beat the record by more than a second. And the record is 11 years old. Like, that is absolutely insane. So it will be a race for the sprinters, I think, on Friday. And I'm really going to look forward to seeing Rory's coverage of that.
And just to clarify, the meet is this Friday, not last Friday when I thought it was.
The meet is
and showed up at the Mizzou Rec Center expecting a swim and dive meet, and nobody was there. There was one person in the pool, and I am 7 days early.
I think it would have been funny if you just like cheered on the one person in the pool where they're just like taking laps, like, yeah, let's go.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Are you going to be there on Friday, Matthew?
Yes, I will be there.
Are you going to be there in the pool as our sideline reporter like we talked about last time? You should
I'm
talk
guessing
to
you would have to go through a couple of hoops to get that cleared, but
Best wishes.
I am a team player, and I will do what is required of me. So
I appreciate it. Anything for Rock'em Nation and majority rules. I really admire your dedication. Who will talk about cross country?
Thanks, Karen. My name is Abigail, and I am Rock'em's track and field and cross country reporter. Last Friday, the Tigers ended their regular season in Alabama at the Crimson Classic. Now, the last time the Missouri men's and women's program faced Alabama was at the 2023 SEC Cross Country Championship. For the men's program, they lost the Crimson Tide by 194 points. This season told a whole different story. With a nearly identical roster, the Missouri men came within 4 points of upsetting the now number 11th team in the nation. And as I said, that was a nearly identical roster. Same team, new identity. And actually a new frontrunner. This race featured Drew Rogers taking the lead for the first time this season. He actually set an almost 8K personal best. The course was a little bit off. But went down the record books as an 8K personal best, showing that the top of their roster still has rivalry between Rogers and James, and I would even throw Billy Morris into that conversation. What's most impressive and proves that they can compete at SECs is the bottom of their roster. They placed all 5 of their top scoring runners within the top 25, which is something that not even Alabama did, even though they dominated the top 10. Tennessee, they tied with Tennessee. That was their first time facing that SEC opponent this season. And all in all, was just an incredible way to cap off their regular season and show that the pack attack is still there and growing faster and stronger each race. And also, drumroll please, because of their exciting performance at the Crimson Classic, the USTF-CCCA coaches poll, coaches poll, they're not in the top 25, but the Midwest region, they bumped up to top 3 in the Midwest region. They leapfrogged over Loyola Chicago. They are now 3rd behind Oklahoma State and Iowa State as usual. Oklahoma remains the leader, national frontrunner in the entire country by coaches poll, and ISU, the Cyclones, are number 4 in the nation. The Midwest region is no joke, and the Tigers are in the top 3. Again, top 2 auto-qualify at regionals, but there is an at-large conversation that becomes more and more realistic the closer that they fall in the rankings.
I'm going to call it out of season sports, but softball's technically in season, I guess, right now. Whatever. So I was not at the game against Missouri Southern, but I did read some insider coverage later. Mizzou won 14-2. Cara Daly did not play shortstop. McCann threw a bullpen and is apparently awaiting an official release from the doctor and training staff to come back into the games. There were 3 home runs in the game from Cara Daly, Julia Crenshaw, and Hayden Sokolowski. God, I'll get it right one of these days. There were a couple of doubles as well from Taylor Ebbs, Stefania, freshman Abby Wilhelm, and freshman Madison Updegrove. It was a triple from Abby Hay. Julia Crenshaw had 3 hits. They mentioned that Sanaya Hill was really good in the field. She made some web gem style plays, they said. The pitching is the same as they've been doing. So it was like 2 minutes of CC Harrison, 2 minutes or 2 innings of CC, 2 innings of Natalie Touche, 2 innings of Taylor Pennell, 2 innings of Lily Witten. Lily Witten gave up a home run, so she continues to kind of struggle a little bit with command there. And then Donahue pitched an inning and Cruzet pitched an inning. Cruzet struggled and loaded the bases, but Sanaya Hill, I guess, made some really good plays to get out of that. Their black and gold game is on Thursday. I will be there. Okay, let's let someone else talk while I try to figure out what the hell is wrong with my camera. Dylan, women's basketball.
Yes. So women's basketball still out of season, but won't be a part of this graphic for that much longer. Finally got some more look at the team as well. Again, last time I got to see them was over the summer, but since then there's been a lot of radio silence, haven't been a lot of opportunities to talk to players, talk to coach, but finally got out of the shell for Media Day in SEC Media Days, which was in Nashville, I believe, this year. Yeah, I think that's right. Either way, went out of the state to do it, so unfortunately I could not join. As a result, I was forced to watch the Coach Pinchton broadcast over the SEC Network Plus on my lovely ESPN accounts. Wasn't anything groundbreaking, but you could definitely see what the interest was there. It's definitely a lot of, okay, this is a new team. There's a lot of overturn both here and in the SEC as a whole. So there's plenty of opportunities. There's plenty of chances. The question is just what are we going to do with those? Talked a lot about the hard work, the ethic, just the way that everyone on the team is bought in. So you can very clearly see that Coach P and this entire women's basketball team has a vision. Get our first look at them on Thursday in the official Mizzou Media Days. Get a greater look in a little bit. Talk to Coach P, talk to a bunch of players. Exhibition next week. Still a lot of questions up in the air. Gardner article looking on that. And then once we get to Media Day, we'll see what we got.
Yeah, and you and Quentin, I guess, will both be there. And then this is probably our last podcast with we'll see. There may be a lot of us next week if Quentin is able to join us as our new member of the Majority Rules family, because he's gonna cover women's basketball with Dylan over here. So that'll be exciting to see. I hope that you get some answers to some of your questions I know that you're working on, or maybe it'll bring up some new questions. Let's see. Just a couple more things. Matthew, do you have anything for wrestling? And then I'll close with gymnastics.
Finally, wrestling. This is the last episode for a long time where wrestling will be under the out-of-season sports banner. Black and gold scrimmage, Friday night, 6 p.m., Hearn Center. Be there, folks. We're going to learn a lot about this team. A lot of promising young faces, a lot of breakthroughs last year. Mm-hmm. People returning for their last hurrah. You still have some position battles going on, 285, 157. Jay Conway, Seth Nitzel, the favorites there, but you don't know. Sometimes stuff happens in that black and gold scrimmage, and that changes the outlook of the season. You know, that changes who starts on November 2nd, which is the first duel, the first time that you will see the Tigers in regular season action. But wrestling is back at the University of Missouri, and the Tigers, beginning of the season in the top 10, where they've been so often over the past 2 decades, It's going to be a really interesting season. A lot of interesting storylines, a lot of change, but this is a very promising team.
Keegan in a new weight class?
Keegan in a new weight. Okay. Bear with me.
Okay.
Keegan O'Toole is one of the greatest athletes we have ever seen for the Tigers. He is a two-time national champion, a favorite to win another title, to make it 3. He could be a 5-time All-American, and he is the type of wrestler who may very well one day represent the United States of America at the Summer Olympics. This does not happen.
Following in the footsteps of
Ben
Jaden
Askren
Cox or
and Jaden Cox.
Ben Askren, yeah.
This is not something you see often. You very rarely get to see greatness in college. Keegan O'Toole embodies greatness,
Mm-hmm.
unlike very few people that we have seen for Mizzou. So if you pass up a chance to see that in his final season as a Tiger,
Then boo.
you are missing a massive opportunity. Because in 4 years, you may very well turn on your television and see him wearing the Stars and Stripes, the USA Wrestling singlet in Los Angeles.
You know what? That gets me going. I'm going to go to some wrestling meets this year. I did go to one last year. I went to the Oklahoma State one, and I took a very lovely photo that has been used on our site several times.
Yes.
Karen Steger Professional Photography.
Well, you're guaranteed to be at least one of the meets this year, even though you aren't necessarily going to be paying a lot of attention to the wrestling side of things.
Right. I might not be there to watch the wrestling, but I will be there to watch the gymnastics part, which is a perfect segue. Let's end with some gymnastics updates. So despite the schedule still not being released, I've basically figured out the entire schedule. So like Matthew said, last week and just mentioned just now, they will kick off their season with the Beauty and the Beast meet. In week 2, they will be at a quad meet against Denver, at Denver. Go Colorado, Dylan's home. They also will face LAU and Georgia. So this will be the first of 2 visits they actually will have against Georgia this season. The following week, they will be at Oklahoma. That should be crazy. Then they welcome in Kentucky before heading to the reigning national champs LSU out in Baton Rouge. Fun fact about that team, they added one of the Olympic trials participants, Kalia Lincoln, in the offseason. So that would be in week 5. In week 6, they're traveling to Illinois for a dual meet. Before Valentine's Day weekend, we're getting another go at the Zoo to the Lou meet. And that will be, hopefully the weather will cooperate. That will be a podium style meet. So that means that everything's raised up on top of a podium. So that is how things work at the meets work at SEC championships, at NCAAs, all of that kind of stuff. Everything's kind of raised up. And that will be against Alabama, Iowa, and Illinois. The following week, they will head to Georgia. Well, actually, no. Georgia comes to them. Sorry, that's a home meet. So their second matchup with Georgia, and that is led by Simone Biles as coach. At least Simone Biles isn't on the team. But Cecile is now the coach of Georgia. In week 9, I believe they will be in Florida, which my parents are very excited about because they will make the trip to the swamp for that. To face off against the Gators, who have a crap ton of Olympic caliber talent on their team. So they have Olympic alternate Leanne Wong, and then they also still have Kayla Gicello, who participated in the Olympic trials, and Sky Blakely, who is a freshman who also participated in the Olympic trials. And then Mizzou will wrap up its home schedule against Auburn. And then finally in week 11, they will be at Arkansas to close out the regular season. That team features Olympic alternate Jocelyn Robertson. So a lot of talent in the SEC. It is a hard schedule. They have no bye weeks. There is no rest for them. It's kind of crazy because when Nate Salzman and I were looking at the schedules, like Georgia basically has 2 bye weeks. They start with an inter-squad meet. Our inter-squad meet is in middle of December. And then they have a break, a complete break built in, whereas Mizzou's just like go, 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 go. Last thing to say about gymnastics, some sad news. Remember last week when I said that they have six 10.0 vaulters? Well, that number has gone down because Grace Ann Davis just had Achilles surgery. So something happened in that 9-day span since the meet where Matthew and I saw her kicking ass. It's very sad. She seems to be in very good spirits. I guess she's previously had Achilles surgery before because she was saying something about feeling now they'll be symmetrical. But she's a senior, so we don't know if that means that she's going to come back for another year. Like we don't know what it means. I sent her a message and said I was sorry that we wouldn't get to see her compete. And she's like, she'll be a good cheerleader. She's well known for wearing tiger paw slippers when she's not on an apparatus. So she said we can count on seeing her cheering for her teammates enthusiastically while wearing her tiger paw slippers. So that'll be fun. I feel really bad for her because like Matthew and I saw her at that inter-squad meet and she looked fantastic. It's very sad. It's very sad. Oh, and the last thing, this isn't even all gymnastics related. Eli Hoff from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch posted something about a new NIL deal update. Coffee that will be hitting our Schnucks shelves. That's a tongue twister. And it's called Brew with the Crew. And it features Kennedy Griffin, Christian Williams, Maya Sands, Noah Certain, Kaylee Langer, and Tamar Bates. So that's pretty fun. So you can head to the store if you're a coffee drinker. And oh my God, is that a Noah Certain's is gooey butter cake. Y'all, that should not be a coffee flavor. That is like sickeningly sweet and a St. Louis tradition if you've never heard of gooey butter cake before.
That seems like it is either going to be a 0 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. And there's no in between.
Or bust.
Yeah, these other ones sound, well, I don't know about this. There's a Tiger Tracks one. Is that like the ice cream? I don't know what Triple Crown is. But I mean, I'd be willing to try one of these normal ones. There's no way in hell I'm buying some gooey butter cake flavored coffee. That sounds like it would hurt your teeth. But on that note, I think that we can wrap up here. Don't forget, everybody, that starting November 7th, you have to have a clear bag to enter. Well, reporters aside, you can do whatever you want. But any of the rest of Mizzou fans watching, you have to have clear bags for any event that you are going to, not just football, all events. So yay safety, but also annoying. So we will get out of here. Please head over to Rock M Nation and support the work of our many student journalists and our other amazing writers. I will just say that last week they put out a lot of articles. I was busy grading and doing homecoming things, so I did not do a digest this week and didn't count how many articles we put out. So it was a lot. Just know it's a lot. You should read them all. You can support us by subscribing to this podcast and leaving a 5-star review. Would love to see some comments on the YouTube if they're nice. You can also join our subscription service, RockM+, RockM.Plus, which is only $5 a month. And follow us on Twitter. I am at Karen Steger. Matthew is at M_Gustafson27. Dylan is at Dylan R. Heinrich. Rory is at Rory Whetstone7. And Abigail, who is with us in spirit, is at Abigail_clap with a K, clap. Thank you for joining us. See you next time. M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.
Oh, good job, guys. Go Tigers.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.